A pleasant day to you, ma'am. I am Jovel P. Sagusay. I'm from BCHM 3B and this is my Chapter 6 entitled The Tourism Public Sector. So, the responsibility of the government in developing, organizing, promoting, and tourism industry is of primary importance to the Philippines. In order for the government to be more effective, partnership with the private sector need to be fostered and cooperation from local communities need to be worked out. This is according to Richard Gordon, former Secretary of Tourism. Before we proceed to the report, here's are the list of the learning objectives. So first is students are able to identify the various government agencies involved in developing and promotion of the tourism industry as well as their functions. And students are able to describe the relationship of this agency with one another. And students are able to explain the possibility of public service as a career in the industry.
Next is a topic outline. First is Department of Tourism. Second is the Philippine Tourism Authority. Third is Intramuros Administration. And fourth is the government agency.
So first, the Department of Tourism. The Department of Tourism or DOT was created by virtue of Presidential Decree number 189. It is the primary policy making, planning, programming, coordinating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of government in the development of a tourism industry, both domestic and international. So the Department of Tourism or DOT shall be the primary government agency charged with the responsibility to encourage, promote, and develop tourism as a major socio-economic activity to generate foreign currency and employment and to spread the benefit of tourism to both the private and public sector. So next is the Philippine Tourism Authority. So the Philippine Tourism Authority or the Presidential Decree 564 on October 2, 1974 was enacted, revising the Charter of the Philippines Tourism Authority, which was originally created under Presidential Decree number 189 dated in May 11, 1973. To strengthening the Philippine Tourism Authority or PTA was needed in order to be in a better position to effectively unify and integrate related activities and services of both government and private entities pertaining to the tourism development project. The authority was organized to implement the policy and the program of Department of Tourism on public development, collect travel taxes, undertake development to the tourism attraction, and among others. So next is the Intramuros Administration. So according to the President or the President Ferdinand E. Marcos, President of the Philippines was virtue of the power vested in me by the Constitution do hereby the degree or the Section 1 creation of the Intramuros Administration. For 100 years, Intramuros has been a priceless heritage of the past for the city of Manila and a major historical landmark of the Philippines. So in order to preserve the enhanced and historical values of the Intramuros, a national historical consciousness program demands its restoration, development, and maintenance and for the purpose. Hence, the Presidential Decree number 1616 in April 10, 1979, creating the Intramuros Administration was created charged with such vital role and responsibility. So, the Intramuros Administration shall be responsible for the orderly restoration and development of Intramuros as a monument to the Hispanic period of Philippines history. It shall also ensure that the general appearance of the Intramuros shall conform to Philippine Spanish architecture of the 16th to the 19th century. Next, other government agency. So first agency is the National Park Development Committee or NPDC. So the National Park Development Committee was created originally as an executive committee on January 14, 1963 for the development of the Quezon Memorial, Luneta, and other national park. It was later designated as the National Park Development Committee or NPDC. So despite an attempt to transfer it to be the Bureau of Forest Development, Department of Natural Resources, and the NPDC has remained under the office of the President. So this government agency is tasked to develop, preserve, and manage Rizal and Paco Park in the Manila and other park that may be assigned to NPDC. Next is the National Historical Institute or NHI. In the Presidential Decree number 260, date on August 1, 1973, has declared certain sites, churches, and places as national shrines, monuments, and other landmarks and placed their preservation, restoration, and or construction or reconstruction under the supervision and control of the National Historical Institute in collaboration with the Department of Tourism. Hence, the National Historical Institute was given the right to declare historical and cultural site and it defines as national shrines, monuments, and or landmarks. By virtue of the Presidential Decree number 1 and date in September 24, 1972, the National Historic Institute has been given the authority for the preservation, restoration, and reconstruction of the several historic sites and buildings. All monetary constitutes are donation to the achieve of the National Historic Institute are tax except and deductible from the taxable income of the donor. Next is the National Center for Culture and Arts or NCCA. An Republic Act number 7356 has been enacted in order to create the mandate of the National Center of Culture and Arts. By the virtue of the Republic Act 8492, the National Museum has now been detached from the National Commission of Culture and Arts and has now been placed solely and budgetary purpose under the office of the President. The primary purpose of the National Museum is to acquire, document, preserve, exhibit, and foster scholarly study and appreciation of work of arts, specimen, and cultural and historical artifacts. Next is the Philippine Conservation Visitor Corporation or PCBC. So, the Philippines Conservation and Visitors Corporation or PCBC is a non-stock or non-profit government corporation attached to the Department of Tourism or DOT. It is tasked with promoting the country as the ideal tourism, convention, and incentive travel destination. Its Conventions and Incentive Travel Unit or CIT provides comprehensive information, assistance, and guidance to meeting planners and incentive travel organizers who seek the ideas venue for their meeting and incentive groups. So next is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the BSP. So in Presidential Decree number 520 issued on July 23, 1974, empowers the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or the formerly Central Bank of the Philippines to organize a corporation which will manage and administer the Philippines International Convention Center. So the responsibility of the BSP is to provide policy direction in the areas of money, banking, and credit. It supervises operations of bank and exercises regulation powers over non-bank financial institute with quasi-banking functions. So next are the National Economic Development Authority or the NEDA. So the National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA is the premier socio-economic planning body of the government of the Philippines. It is highly regarded as the country's authoritative agency on macroeconomic forecasting, policy analysis, and research. It is provides a high-level advance to policy making in the Congress of the Philippines and the executive branch of the government. So NEDA is involved in the formation of the national and subnational policies, plans, and programs. So the agency reviews the monitor and evaluates infrastructures project in addition to undertaking short-term policy reviews that provide critical analysis of development issue and policy alternative to decision makers. NEDA has also been instrument in stimulating the generation as use of evidence in policy making. It plays a central role of mobilizing and coordinating other government departments in stimulation impact and evaluation. Next is the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation or the PAGCOR. So PAGCOR is a government-owned and controlled corporation existing under Presidential Decree number 1869 issued on July 11, 1983 by President Ferdinand Marcos. Pertinent provision of the said enabling law are the Section 1 or the Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the state to centralize and integrate all games of chance not be heretofore authorized by existing franchises or permitted by law in order to attain the following objectives. So, to establish and operate clubs and casinos for amusement and recreation, including sports, gaming pools, basketball, football, lotteries, and such other form of amusement and recreation, including games of chance, which may be allowed by law within the territorial jurisdiction of the Philippines and which will minimize, if not totally eradicate, the evils, malpractices, and corruption that are normally prevalent in the conduct of operation of gambling clubs and casino without direct government involvement. Next is the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or the DENR. As provided under the Section 4 of the Executive Order 192, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DNR is mandated to be the primary government agency to responsible for the conservation, management, developing, and proper use of the country's environment and natural resources. It includes those the reservation, watershed areas, and land of the public domain, as well as the licensing, utilization, and regulation of the natural resources as may be provided by law in order to ensure equitable sharing of the benefits derived therefrom, rather for the welfare of the present future generation of Filipino. So, the DNR mission is to be the dynamic force behind people's initiative in the protection, conservation, development, and management of the environment through strategic alliance and partnership, relevant policy and program, and appropriate information technology towards sustainable development. Next is the Department of Labor and Employment. So the Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE is the national government agency mandated to formulate policy, implement programs, and serve as the policy coordinating arm of the executive branch in field of labor and employment. So, the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, is the national government agency mandated to formulate policy, implement program, and serve as the policy coordinating arm and executive branch in the field of labor and employment. The DOLE promotes gainful and employment opportunity and optimize the development and utilization of the country manpower resources. Next is the Department of Public Works and Highways or the DPWH. So, the Department of Public Work and Highways functions as the engineering and construction arm of the government tasked to continuously develop its technology for the purpose of ensuring the safety and all infrastructure facilities and securing for all public works currently or current and highways the highest efficient and equality in construction. So, the DPWH is of infrastructure, especially responsible for the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of the national highways, flood control and water resources development system, and other public works in accordance with the national development objectives. So the work of DPWH is very important, especially in providing land access to tourism destination sites and other service facilities. So next is the Department of Transportation and Communication, or DOTC. So the Department of Transportation and Communication is the primary policy planning, programming, coordinating, implementing, regulating, and administrative entity of the executive branch of the government in the promotion, development of regulation of dependable and coordinated network of transportation and communication system, as well as in the fast, safe, efficient, and reliable postal, transportation, and communication services. So, as one of the first government agency established under the Malolos Constitution on January 21, 1899, the DOTC plays a crucial role in accelerating the country economic development. It provides the backbone of growth and enhances the country competitive edge of providing effective and efficient transportation and communication infrastructure system that narrow the geographical and physical divide connecting the country, its island, and its power of rest of the world. So, next is the following are the attached agency of the DOTC. So, first is the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or the LTFRB, is the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board is the agency which issue, amend, revises, suspend, or cancel certificate of public convenience or permits authorizing the operation of public land transportation services provided by the motorized or vehicles, and to prescribe the appropriate term of and the condition. Next is the Land Transportation Office, or the LTO. So the Land Transportation Office is the proper agency which control the registration and operation of the motor vehicles and the licensing of the owner, dealers, constructor, driver, and similar matters. Next is the next government agency is the Department of Trade and Industry, or the DTI. So, under the Executive Order 133, which remain effective up of the present time, the Department of Trade and Industry serve as a primary coordinative, promotive, and facilitative arm for trade, industry, and investment activities. It acts as the catalyst for intensified private sector activity to accelerate and sustain economic growth. Besides overseeing the effective implementation and enforcement of trade regulation and fair trade law, the DTI provides protection to consumers through consumers education and information dissemination programs. Next is the Board of Investment, or the BOI. So, under the Omnibus Investment Code of 1987, the Board of Investment, or BOI, shall be responsible for the regulation and promotion of investment in the Philippines. So, the BOI is tasked with assisting Filipino and foreign investors to venture and prosper economically. The site provides information on the doing business in the Philippines, in its industries and opportunities, economic zone, and incentives. Next is the Philippine Economic Zone, or Zone Authority, or PISA. in Republic Act number 7916 creating the Philippines Economic Zone Authority or PIZA was enacted on July 25, 1994. So, the purpose of PISA is to monitor and evaluate the development and requirements of eco-zones and recommend to the local government units of other appropriate authorities the location, incentives, basic services, utilities, and infrastructure required to be made available to said entities. Next is the Department of Foreign Affairs or the DFA. So Department of Foreign Affairs is a primary or a prime agency of government responsible for the pursuit of the state's foreign policy and the nerve center of the foreign service worthy of the trust and pride of the every Filipino. So, the mission of DFA is to advance the interest of the Philippines and the Filipino people in the work community. And their vision is the Department of the Foreign Affairs is a prime agency of government responsible for the pursuit of the state foreign policy at nerve center of the foreign services worthy and trust and pride of every Filipino. Next is the Department of the Interior and Local Government or the DILG. So, the DILG is promulgation of the Republic Act number 6975, otherwise known as the Department of the Interior and Local Government or the DILG Act of 1990, operationalized and initiated the call for the tangible reform in the country public safety services, particularly for the Uniform Bureau under DILG. So, DILG promotes peace and order, ensure public safety, and strengthen local government capability and effective deliver basic services to the citizenry. Next is the Bureau of Food and Drugs. So, the Bureau of Food and Drugs or the BPED or BFAD was created by Republic Act number 3720, mandated on enforce and administer the law. It is the policy of the state to ensure the safe and good quality food, drug and cosmetic and regulate the production, sale and traffic of the same to protect the health of the customer. So, BFAD is a key regulation agency of the Department of Health, Philippines with major responsibility in ensuring safety, efficacy, and quality of food product, drug, vaccine, and biological in vitro or diagnostic reagent, medical devices, cosmetic, and household hazardous substance. So next is the Bureau of Custom. So under the Republic Act of 1937 on June 22, 1957, entitled the Revising the Tariff and Custom Law, the General Duties as the amended by Republic Act number 9135, date on April 27, 2001. BOC is implemented as an effective revenue collection by preventing and suppressing smuggling and entry of prohibited imported goods. It supervises the control and entrance and clearance of vessels and aircraft engaged in foreign commerce. Next is the Philippine Coast Guard. So, by virtue of the Republic Act number 5173, the Philippine Coast Guard has been created as a attached agency of the Department of Transportation and Communication. So, the responsible of the Coast Guard is to perform maritime search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, maritime safety, marine environmental protection, and maritime security. Next is the Nayong Pilipino Foundation or the NPF. So the Nayong Filipino Foundation was created under the number of 37 on November 16, 1972 with the intention of promoting, encouraging, and initiating research and development projects and activities in social sciences, humanities, social and annihilation, and allied field. So the foundation is a non-stock and non-profit public corporation organized establish and operate to the public interest, and no portion of its fund and income shall in turn to benefit of any of its member. Next is the Tourism Enterprises Zone Authority, or the TISA. Under the Tourism Act of the Tourism Enterprises Zone Authority, or TISA, is the empowered to administer tourism zones, regular tourism zone enterprises as grant task perk. So the function of TISA with the power of designate, regulate, and supervise the tourism economic zone established under the Act, as well as the develop, manage, and supervise tourism infrastructure project in the country, and also develop of the tourism infrastructure project, designation, regulation, and supervision of TISA, and increased revenue generation. So, in conclusion of this report, the tourism public sector plays a pivotal role in promoting, regulating, and sustaining the tourism industry. So through various policy infrastructure development, making initiatives, and destination management strategies, government can stimulate economic growth, preserve cultural heritage, to protect the natural resources, and, however, effective collaboration with the private sector, community engagement, and continuous adaptation to changing market dynamic essential for sustainable development of tourism. So, this is all. This is my chapter 6. Have a nice day ahead, and thank you.